Greetings. My name is M. Christopher Brown II, and I serve as president of Kentucky State University. As president of the university, I'm responsible for the students, the faculty, the staff, our athletics, our entertainment, and all of our operations. It's the opportunity after you finish elementary, middle, and high school to train for your profession. You can be a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, a physician assistant, a phlebotomist, the person who draws your blood. You can be an architect or an astronaut, anything you want to be after you finish college. And so when you finish high school, you'll come maybe to Kentucky State University or another institution. My favorite subject when I was your age was history and social studies. I'm excited that I have this opportunity to read to you today. The book that I'm going to read is called Grandma's Gift, and it's by Eric Velasquez. I'd encourage you to open up your copy of this book and read along with me. Let me warn you, some of the words are in Spanish, and we may stumble together. Grandma's Gift by Eric Velasquez. Feliz Navidad, Eric. My teacher walked me to the classroom door, where my grandmother was waiting to take me back to her apartment for my winter break. I used to spend all of my school vacations with her so she could take care of me while my parents worked. Before we left, my teacher handed Grandma a note about our holiday project. The Metropolitan Museum of Art had just bought a famous painting, and I had to go see it to write a report. On our way home, Grandma asked me to translate the note because she couldn't read English. I translate a lot of things for Grandma. Sometimes I felt like I was going to school for two. All the note said was Metropolitan Museum of Art, 82nd Street and 5th Avenue, 2nd floor, new exhibit. But for now, I had 10 whole days of freedom, and Christmas time in El Barrio was like magic, or always like magic. Everyone was out in the streets shopping for food and gifts, and Grandma was ready to join them. So we dropped off my suitcase and headed straight for La Marqueta, the market, one of my favorite places. This special group of shops and stalls sat under the elevated train tracks, and all the stalls rumbled and shook whenever trains passed by. You can see that elevated train. Grandma could find everything she needed there year-round: fruits, vegetables, fish, meat, clothing, and even her favorite records. But that day, Grandma was shopping only for the ingredients for pasteles, the traditional Christmas dish for Puerto Ricans. She promised that if I helped her make the pasteles this year, she would take me to the museum. Our first stop was the produce stand to buy root vegetables. I cannot do this line in Spanish. Hopefully your teacher can help you. I think it's estoy buscando calabaza, yutia, palantes verdes, guianes verdes y papas. Grandma said to the vendor, I'm looking for pumpkins, taro root, green plantains, green bananas, and potatoes. And then he says, well, here are the best: All the vendors knew that Grandma would buy only the best ingredients for her pasteles. When they agreed on the price, Grandma said, "Gracias y Feliz Navidad." Thank you and Merry Christmas. Our next stop was the butcher stand. Alberto asked, "Which piece do you like, Miss Carmen?" And Grandma said, "That one is good. Give me 4 pounds." After that, our last stop was Doña Juanita's Bodega for parchment wrapping paper, banana leaves, string, and El Barrio's latest gossip. Wow. The worst part of the trip was carrying the heavy shopping bags up 5 flights of stairs to Grandma's apartment. As soon as she took off her coat, Grandma headed straight to the kitchen and went right to work peeling and grating the root vegetables by hand, never with a blender. If you want it to taste traditional, you must make it traditionally, she always said. When I asked her where she learned to grate so finely, she only answered, "You should have seen my mother grate." While she worked, Grandma asked me to choose some records to set the mood. "I always like your selection. Siempre me gusta tu selección." As Grandma put the meat on to simmer, she told me stories about her life in Santurce, Puerto Rico, and she really had to concentrate. But when it came to wrapping the pasteles, that was important. It was the hardest part of the recipe. First, Grandma carefully laid out a sheet of parchment paper with a piece of banana leaf on top. Then she poured a little annatto oil on the leaf and added la masa, the dough, and la carne, the meat, with a valley scooped out in the middle for la salsa, the sauce. For the finishing touch, she folded everything together to form a perfect rectangle and tied each one with a string so it looked like an old-fashioned parcel. While the pasteles were boiling for an hour, Grandma said, "Esto pasteles van a ser los mejores porque están hechos especialmente para ti." I hope I did that one right. My Spanish is struggling. "These pasteles are going to be the best ever because I'm making them just for you." But I knew that I'd have to share them with the rest of the family and friends who came to visit. She always handed them out to her favorite vendors as she shopped for all her gifts. The Tuesday morning before Christmas, Grandma woke up and announced that we were going to the museum so I could write my report before all the toys I would get for the holiday distracted me. Grandma never really traveled beyond the 20 blocks that made up El Barrio, where she knew everyone and everyone knew her. I could tell she was nervous, but I couldn't help being excited. The museum was a short ride down Fifth Avenue, but the neighborhood was completely different. When we got off the bus right in front of the museum, we didn't see anyone from Puerto Rico on the streets, and no one was speaking Spanish. As we walked up the steps and through the doors to the admission booth, I saw Grandma searching the crowd for a familiar face. Then she asked me to read what it said above the booth. I explained that it said to pay what you wish. This made Grandma nervous and unsure about what to do. She fumbled through her purse and handed the clerk some money with shaky hands. Once inside, we went up the large flight of stairs to the gallery on the second floor, as my teacher had directed in her note. All the paintings there were beautiful. "What does it say there?" Grandma would frequently ask me to translate the caption written next. to each painting. There's the caption. Suddenly, Grandma turned and said, "Oye, Wanda Pera, ki hace tu ahi?" Hey, Wanda Pereira, what are you doing here? Grandma finally recognized someone from El Barrio, but she wasn't talking to a painting, and it was the most magnificent of all of them. I'm sorry, but she was talking to a painting, and it was the most magnificent of all of them. I quickly ran up and read the caption next to it. Grandma, it says Wanda Pereira was a slave and an assistant to the great painter Diego Velázquez. He later set de Pereira free, and de Pereira became a great artist himself. There's a picture of him right there. We both stood there, just staring at the amazing painting. The gentleman seemed to be looking back at us. He seemed so real, much like someone we might see walking around El Barrio. I couldn't believe that this was a painting in a museum. Look at that, they're looking at it. That evening, my parents brought arroz con gandules and lechon, rice with pigeon peas and roast pork, to have with Grandma's delicious pasteles for our Christmas Eve dinner. While we ate, Grandma and I told them about our museum adventure. Grandma explained that she had learned about Juan de Perea, and she remembered him growing up in Puerto Rico. We all told stories and listened to music until midnight when Grandma brought out a gift for me. Almost done. I ripped off the wrapping paper to find my very own sketchbook, my first set of colored pencils, and we listened to one of my favorite Christmas carols. I took out my pencils and began to draw my first self-portrait. And as we used to say, the end. This is an exciting read, and reading about a young man and his grandmother preparing for Christmas, and the fact that all of us can find ourselves, our histories, and our future in the world around us. Don't be afraid to go out and to explore with your family or with your friends. We've just read Grandma's Gift by Eric Velázquez. Thank you for reading with me. I'd encourage you to read aloud to your family or to your friends. It will help you be a better communicator, share your ideas, and explore the world of reading and books. Thank you, stay safe, and maybe one day I'll see you in person.